motion was stalled when a witness refused to testify without being granted full immunity. In the meantime, OJ Simpson awaits his arraignment on Monday on double murder charges that could bring him the death penalty. Authorities have him under a suicide watch, and his attorney Robert Shapiro says he's never seen Simpson more depressed. OJ Simpson, the hero who wore number 32, now is Orenthal James Simpson, number 4013970. Simpson was booked Friday night for the murders of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. Simpson's attorney Robert Shapiro visited Simpson after his first night in jail.
OJ is very morose. He is very, very depressed. We did not discuss the case at all, and we're just concerned about his emotional and mental state right now.
Al Cowlings, Simpson's lifelong friend from the streets of San Francisco to the playing fields of college and pro football, was charged with harboring a fugitive and released on $250,000 bail. Police say it was Cowlings who drove Simpson in the white Bronco that led police on a bizarre convoy to Simpson's home past cheering fans on the LA freeways. But while Americans witnessed the strange scene, they never heard the 911 phone call Cowlings made from the car's cellular phone.
This is AC. I have OJ in the car.
Okay, where are you?
Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
Okay.
Right now, we are okay, but you got to tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head.
Okay, hold on a minute. Monica?
He just want to see his mother. Let me get him to the house.
Okay, hold on a moment. Okay, where are you? Is everything else okay?
Everything right now is okay, officer. Everything is okay. All how he wants me to get him to his mom. He wants me to get him to his house.
Okay.
So that's all we ask. He got a gun to his head.
After the car pulled up in the Simpson driveway, an hour-long standoff ended up in the pair's arrest. Meanwhile, Simpson's jersey and Heisman Trophy were temporarily pulled from their cases at USC for fear of theft. LA's DA, Gil Garcetti, admitted he'll have a tough time finding a jury who will not be biased by Simpson's heroic past.
OJ Simpson, the persona, the hero of OJ Simpson, is something that most people don't want to let go of. I mean, this was a man of beauty, of grace, of talent. He had succeeded. He had been through tough times, and he had made it big. And he was doing good things. Unfortunately, we now have a set of circumstances that change that entirely.
Garcetti says it could be months before an actual trial. In the meantime, police continue to search for a murder weapon. The O.J. Simpson story has consumed the nation, and it brings us one.
O.J. Simpson is scheduled to make his first appearance in court. The man who will prosecute him says he would not be surprised if Simpson eventually confesses. The former football great is accused of murdering his ex-wife and her male friend. Since Friday night, his home has been a 9 by 7 foot cell in a special wing of the LA County Jail. Today, a visitor. Here's more from NBC's Kelly O'Donnell.
O.J. Simpson's lawyer visited his client today, who remains in isolation and under suicide watch. The meeting was emotional.
Asked me to spend the morning with my 2 boys, and then he started to cry and said, "I wish I could spend Father's Day with my children."
A Los Angeles church offered prayer for the man who has tumbled from public idol to prison inmate.
Our city is traumatized by the pain that we human beings cause one another.
Tomorrow morning, O.J. Simpson, prisoner number 410-3970, is set for arraignment at the Criminal Courts Building. Prosecutors will argue against bail. This was the scene at the city jail after his arrest Friday night. Simpson was moved right away to the county jail. Confinement for a man accustomed to a sprawling mansion and comfortable playing golf with the president just 3 months ago. Now the district attorney says he would not be surprised by a confession.
It's not going to shock me if we see an O.J. Simpson sometime down the road, and it could happen very soon, it could happen months from now, say, okay, I did do it, but I'm not responsible.
The district attorney says he has not decided whether to pursue the death penalty. More witnesses must be interviewed, evidence tested, and a big question remains open. Where is the murder weapon? Dr. Michael Baden is a forensic expert hired by the Simpson defense.
I think everybody should keep an open mind, because in the past there have been notable times when the leaks have proven to be wrong.
O.J. Simpson's oldest and closest friend is A.C. Cowlings. From the days of childhood, pro football together, and now this. Cowlings is facing felony charges for his role in Simpson's hours as a fugitive. Cowlings was driving during the chase and called police from a car phone.
This is AC. I have OJ in the car.
Okay, where are you?
Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
Okay.
Right now, we are okay, but you got to tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head.
Cowlings goes to court within a month. Simpson will be there tomorrow. And there is already a change at the place where O.J. first achieved celebrity. Simpson's Heisman Trophy and his USC jersey have been removed from the college display case. The university says not because of shame, but fear they would be stolen. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Los Angeles.
O.J. Simpson's arrest has created a fresh debate about domestic violence, which accounts for the deaths of 1,500 women every year. L.A. District Attorney Gil Garcetti joins us now to talk about that problem. Good evening, Mr. Garcetti.
Good evening.
One top member of the Clinton administration today called domestic violence our dirty little secret. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, it has been a secret, perhaps for some. It hasn't been a secret for those of us in the criminal justice system in Los Angeles, however. We in the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office, unfortunately, are filing one domestic violence homicide case every 9 days. That should shock everyone. But this is not a problem just for Los Angeles. It's a problem throughout the nation, Deborah.
Well, let's talk about the system. We've all learned now that Nicole Simpson was a victim of domestic violence for many years. Yet
Yes.
O.J. Simpson was handled gently by the courts. Did the system fail her?
Oh, most definitely it did. The criminal justice failed Nicole. It failed Ronald Goldman. It failed the children of Nicole. It did not act in a manner in which we could have protected Nicole. Also, perhaps even protecting O.J. What happened in this case was that you had a situation where she was beaten. She said she had been beaten on a number of occasions. The case was presented, he was found guilty, or he pleaded guilty, and then the court, unfortunately, gave a sentence that had no consequence. It really told O.J., hey, it's okay, just take...
Story with a live report from Los Angeles. Here in our area, vandals left their mark on a mausoleum near Arlington Cemetery, and investigators say the desecration might be part of a...
In some ways, it's a modern story. It's of course, the biggest tragedy because 2 people were killed, children were robbed of a mother, families lost loved ones, and a man widely admired in this country is now caught in the web of a terrible tragedy. But I have to say that after we all watched it in excruciating detail last weekend, the time has now come for the legal process to take its course. I think the less the rest of us say from now on in until the legal process takes its course, the better.
President Clinton lending some perspective to a case.
But Shapiro made the normal request for the defense to be given access to all the evidence. And the preliminary hearing has been set for June 30th.
Orange County, and he said, thank God Al Cowlings managed to avoid getting him there. A reporter said, why was he going to commit suicide there? And Shapiro said, yes.
About Al Cowlings, but some people are wondering whether he's going to, the charges they have charged him with may stick. What are you hearing there? What's happening with Al?
Well, that's an interesting thing. He has been arrested for harboring a fugitive, but he has not been charged. And today the district attorney's office said they haven't decided whether in fact they are going to charge him, which sort of indicates that the story that Shapiro described may be true, that Cowlings perhaps was held at gunpoint by OJ and ordered to take him there, and that OJ was not an accomplice in eluding the law, but was in fact, almost victimized himself. So at this point, there are not charges against Al Cowlings, and from what the DA says, there may not be.
And our next legal development we should see on Wednesday?
Well, the next court appearance is Wednesday, in which the motions will be decided upon by the judge. Those motions were that OJ be allowed to have a special pillow in jail, that he be allowed to see his personal physician, and that the defense be allowed complete and total access to all the prosecution evidence. But the preliminary hearing begins June 30th, and of course what's going on there is Shapiro would like to get this thing before a judge in a preliminary hearing so it doesn't go to a grand jury that would return an indictment, because in a preliminary hearing Shapiro can say, you've got to prove that my guy should stand trial, and he has a shot of holding
them with the news media. It was the video from their bird's eye view that made this live television drama possible. One of those pilots was Rob Marshall of KCAL-TV in Los Angeles. I spoke with him today by telephone.
There was probably on the pursuit itself an easy 10 to 12 helicopters, if not maybe a couple more. I was so busy, you know, watching the vehicle, watching what was going on around me. I'm not exactly sure. There's 7 major TV stations out here. Every one of them has a helicopter. So you're really used to being around a lot of traffic. Once we got over Brentwood, now there were about 18 helicopters. I'm sure there were other helicopters up there who had heard about the scene, were just sightseeing and checking it out just so they could be there, and we didn't need them there.
Could you see the crowds along the way? I mean, we've all heard the stories and seen the tape of people saying, run, OJ, run, and people gathered on bridges and stopping their cars and that sort of thing. How much of that could you tell from your vantage point?
Amazing. I was, when I was flying down, I looked over at my cameraman. I said, Jeff, look at all of these people. It was like a parade coming through, and yes, there were people everywhere. You had CHP who kind of blocked off the entrance and exit ramps, and so the cars wouldn't get on, so they would have a clear freeway to move. But then all of a sudden, I made numerous references to this point, I'm sure that people had either been watching their TV or listening to the news on the radio, hearing what was going on, and then immediately got in their cars and drove to these overpasses and just parked themselves and watched to get a glimpse and see what was going on. But there were so many of the bridges were just jammed with cars and people just hanging off the side watching to see OJ go by. It's definitely the most bizarre thing I've seen in years.
Marshall says chopper pilots and the police pretty much have this kind of chase down to a routine. He says the only time the choppers were asked to fly at a higher altitude was at the Simpson home because there were so many helicopters they needed to reduce the noise.
The president light up a room just with his presence. Not today. Today he was in a Los Angeles courtroom hearing a judge read the formal charges of murder that had been filed against him. It was a grave occasion, and this was a different O.J. Simpson. Dazed, distracted, and in deep, deep trouble. We begin tonight with NBC's Larry Carroll.
O.J. Simpson at first appeared confused, as though he didn't understand what was going on.
I'm sorry. May we start all over here?
Yes. And that you did willfully and unlawfully and with malice aforethought murder Nicole Brown Simpson.
As the charges against him were read, Simpson seemed sullen and sleepy, closing his eyes at times.
At this time, do you wish to enter a plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. Shapiro then made 3 routine requests for a preliminary hearing, all evidence gathered by the LAPD, and all autopsy records. They are the first moves in a complex game of legal strategy. Prosecutors are convinced they have a sound case against Simpson.
That it was a premeditated murder, that it was done with deliberation and premeditation. That is precisely what he's charged with, because that is what we will prove.
The prosecuting team again hit on what will be its central theme.
We should not forget the fact that we have 2 victims who were brutally slain.
Although prosecutors refuse to talk about the evidence against Simpson, key portions of the prosecution's case could be revealed at next week's preliminary hearing. According to unconfirmed media reports, that evidence includes the victim's blood at Simpson's estate and in his vehicle, blood-soaked clothes found in his washing machine, scratches on O.J. Simpson, a pair of gloves and a ski mask, all with blood on them. NBC News also has learned preliminary DNA tests confirm that O.J. Simpson's blood was found at the murder scene. But NBC News was told that these early findings are generally not admissible in court. Simpson's attorney says he hasn't seen much of what the police have found.
I read on the way over here the summary of the findings by their criminologist. In summary, they are not conclusive.
Shapiro also shed light on the reason for O.J. Simpson's escape attempt last Friday.
He was going to the graveside of his wife with the intention of being with her. And thank God Al Cowlings talked him out of that.
With the intention of being with her, you mean he just wanted to kill himself?
Yes.
Simpson's attorney did not ask for bail today. Simpson is ineligible because of the double murder charge. Public curiosity and support for Simpson that was evident Friday continued throughout the weekend at his Brentwood mansion. Neighbors in the quiet upscale community have begun to lose patience with the notoriety the case has brought them, and police temporarily closed off the street over the weekend.
They just trashed the place. I don't know if you were...
Today, officials at the University of Southern California returned Simpson's Trojan jersey and Heisman Trophy to their display case. Both had been removed over the weekend to prevent vandalism. Published reports say a grand jury is now investigating the Simpson case, and tonight, Los Angeles police are back in Chicago, searching the same field they searched a week ago. But so far, no murder weapon has been found. Larry Carroll, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Both sides, the defense and the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, already are trying to shape public opinion for the long process ahead. Ira Reiner was the Los Angeles District Attorney from 1984 to 1992, and he dealt with a number of high-profile cases. Mr. Reiner, what's the biggest risk for the Los Angeles District Attorney in the Simpson case?
Well, Tom, in most criminal cases that are very visible, the problem is the defendant's problem. That is, it's very difficult sometimes for a defendant to get a jury that hasn't been contaminated by all the publicity. In this case, the shoe's on the other foot. It is the prosecution that is going to have a very difficult time putting together a jury that does not have deep feelings of sympathy and compassion for O.J. O.J.'s a hero. He's an authentic American hero, and we all love heroes. And despite what is starting to appear that he may be involved with, the fact is it's going to be incredibly difficult to find a jury that isn't going to be looking for a way to help O.J. out of this nightmare.
Is that why Gil Garcetti is saying that it may take more than a year for this to come to trial?
No, that isn't the reason. In murder cases, the delays are just endless, much greater than they need be. But frankly, most often the delays come from the defense, who try to stall the case as long as possible, perhaps hoping for the evidence to become stale. But I would expect in a case like this, the defense may feel that it's to their interest to try to get this case to trial as quickly as possible.
Isn't there a lot of pressure on the prosecutor to turn up a murder weapon in this case?
Well, a murder weapon obviously would be helpful, but there's all kinds of evidence, and a murder weapon is only one piece of the evidence.
When they said that they can prove that it was premeditated, are we about to hear something that is going to be quite stunning in the O.J. Simpson case, in your judgment?
Tom, I haven't a clue as to what information or evidence there is other than what's been released publicly. But the reason that's so critical is under California law, both premeditation and deliberation are necessary for this to be a first-degree instead of a second-degree murder case. And the difference between second-degree and first-degree, when you have special circumstances, is the difference between 15 years to life and life without the possibility of parole. So a great deal is at stake here on that single issue of premeditation and deliberation.
Do you think they'll ask for the death penalty?
No, I do not. This is not, and I have to hasten to add this, based on the information as it generally appears now. There can be as yet undisclosed information to come out later. But if it doesn't change, these are not the kind of facts that give rise to a death penalty case. It is not the policy and practice of the District Attorney's Office in this type of case to seek the death penalty.
Mr. Reiner, thank you very much. Well, O.J. Simpson, of course, was best known as a Californian, growing up in San Francisco, playing at USC, living in Los Angeles. He made his mark as a Hall of Fame football player in Buffalo, New York, as a Bill. And today, NBC's Rahema Ellis found that city so far from the Los Angeles County Jail, Buffalo is consumed by the Simpson case.
When O.J. Simpson entered his not guilty plea in a Los Angeles...
Then we went into denial. We said it couldn't be, not the juice. Not the juice!
If our kids need to have role models, they need to start looking at the fathers, the uncles, their cousins, or whatever first.
But O.J. was a role model in a city of nearly 330,000, a city he put on the map, donating money and time to local charities and children's groups.
He was Buffalo's hero, Buffalo's legend. When he played with the Bills, he touched a lot of hearts when he was here. He was good to a lot of children. He's an actor now. Everyone loves O.J. Simpson.
Perceived very positively by everyone, and suddenly now a tragedy happens to him and his family, and maybe to America as a whole. Here's a hero. He's lost.
This is the city of record for O.J. Simpson, and like everywhere else, reaction to the news about O.J. has gone from shock to sadness. A sadness felt even deeper here, because after 9 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, O.J. Simpson was much more than just a football player.
When he came here and became a star, he gave this city some sort of validation that it belonged with.
Extending condolences to the families of those who died, adding, O.J. Simpson maintained friendly relations with the team in the years after he left. A relationship O.J. Simpson carries on with this city today, as the image of OJ the football.
Will OJ spend the rest of his life in prison?
When you do badly, there are consequences.
And everyone's asking, how could one of our greatest heroes have fallen so far?
It's just a great American tragedy, that's all.
From his ghetto roots to his days of glory, to the chase that stunned the nation, it's a hard copy special report. OJ Simpson, America's fallen hero. 1994. This is hard copy.
Good evening, I'm Terry Murphy. Barry Nolan's on assignment. Thanks for joining us. It was the next scene in the incredible real-life drama all America is talking about. OJ Simpson went before a judge to face double murder charges today. Doug Bruckner reports on OJ's day in court.
People versus Orenthal J. Simpson, also known as OJ Simpson. May I have your appearances, please?
There he was, once one of America's greatest heroes, standing before a judge, charged with the most brutal of crimes, double murder. It was the first of many days in court, which are sure to come.
Mr. Simpson, do you understand the charges as I've read them to you?
Yes.
And have you discussed those charges with your lawyer, sir?
Yes.
At this time, do you wish to enter a plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
And then O.J. Simpson was ordered back to his jail cell to wait without bail as the wheels of justice began to turn. For years, O.J. Simpson captured our attention with his incredible play on the football field, one of the greatest to ever play the game. He wore his favorite number, 32. Tonight, O.J. Simpson wears a different number, the number assigned to him at L.A. County Jail, 401-3970. This is where O.J. will likely spend the next few months while prosecutors and defense attorneys prepare their legal maneuvers. A 9 by 7 foot cell containing only a toilet, a sink, and a bunk bed. A guard checks on him every 15 minutes to make sure he's all right. It's what police call the suicide watch. Now, it's up to the legal system to determine his fate. L.A. District Attorney Gil Garcetti has reportedly already convened a grand jury to consider evidence in the case against the superstar. Evidence that police say links Simpson to the brutal murder of his ex-wife and her friend outside her apartment last week.
In fairness to Mr. Simpson, it would not be fair if we started discussing the evidence, especially before even his lawyers have looked at the evidence.
The grand jurors will likely be told about bloodstains police are said to have found at O.J.'s house, in his car, and at the scene of the crime. And a matching pair of gloves, one found at the murder scene, the other reportedly outside O.J.'s home. And there may even be an eyewitness to the case. According to a newspaper report, a witness before the grand jury refused to testify unless granted immunity. Who is the mystery witness, and what does he or she know? Prosecutors won't comment. The case against O.J. is also likely to focus on his history of domestic violence. Back in 1989, he pleaded no contest to beating his wife and was sentenced to perform a few hours of community service. In retrospect, the DA now says O.J. got off easy.
That was a horrible joke. It's a joke on our community. And look what happens as a result of that.
Today, District Attorney Garcetti is promising O.J. Simpson will not get any special treatment. In fact, if he's convicted, O.J. may face the death penalty. The DA says he's not yet decided whether he will seek the gas chamber. But experts say winning a conviction against O.J. Simpson will not be easy.
I think that no matter what the jury finds he did, the jury will always know that this is O.J. Simpson. And they will want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I do believe that. I don't think that the case can be equated with any other case that we've had, certainly not in my memory, where the defendant is so overwhelmingly liked.
Even District Attorney Garcetti admits it will be difficult to find jurors who aren't sympathetic to their fallen hero. And defense attorneys may try to build their case around O.J.'s mental condition at the time of the murders.
if he did in fact commit this crime, he wanted to be found because he left all the clues there leading police to his house. I think if he committed the crime, he wanted to be punished. So there was a really confused state of mind.
In the weeks to come, expect lawyers on both sides to use Friday's dramatic chase to bolster their arguments.
The prosecution can introduce evidence of flight and use that to raise an inference of guilt, consciousness of guilt. When one flees, it's to avoid prosecution. On the other hand, it will show how distraught he was. It's very graphic evidence. I mean, we all watched on Friday, glued to our TV sets as this car drove up, and all we heard was, he's got a gun to his head, he's got a gun to his head. That's not normal conduct.
But in a story that has seen more dramatic twists and turns than any Hollywood movie, today's chapter was written in court.
At this time, do you wish to enter a plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Later, OJ's attorney urged Americans not to rush to judgment.
There has been so much speculation that has gone on across the country that it is time to turn this matter to the system of justice where it belongs and let the legal process, under the scrutiny of the American public, take place.
But the prosecutor told reporters she has no doubts about OJ's guilt.
He is the sole murderer, and that is why he is the only one charged.
If the case against OJ Simpson comes to trial, it will be up to a jury to decide. Will 12 men and women see OJ as an American hero or as a troubled soul who turned into a vicious killer?
In the case against O.J. Simpson, the legal maneuvers have just begun. Meanwhile, the superstar awaits his fate behind bars. Coming up next, the incredible story behind O.J.'s dramatic surrender as we continue our hard copy special report on O.J. Simpson, America's fallen. Never before has America witnessed such a gripping spectacle. Millions of people glued to their television sets across the country watching the incredible events unfold. It all happened so fast, at times television news reporters weren't sure what was going on. Tonight we're able to piece together the almost unbelievable story of O.J.'s surrender. Doug Bruckner continues.
This is AC. I have OJ in the car.
Okay, where are you?
Please, I'm coming up the 5 freeway.
Okay.
Right now, we are okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, but he got a gun to his head.
It was the one clue, a frantic 911 call to Los Angeles police from OJ's best friend Al Cowlings on his cellular phone. OJ was on the run somewhere in LA, and police were desperate to know where. And then another 911 call, this time from a motorist who spotted OJ's getaway car.
I think I just saw OJ Simpson on the 5 freeway, and there was he's heading north, and we like looked at him, you know, and he like stared us down like he was dead. So I'm serious.
And with those calls, police were able to track down the world's most famous fugitive and finally end a frightening week-long drama. No movie script could match the real-life horror that unfolded on a bumper-to-bumper LA freeway last Friday afternoon. The nation was riveted, watching the low-speed police chase in pursuit of an armed and dangerous O.J. Simpson, wanted for double homicide. O.J. Simpson, football's golden boy, was said to be lying in the back of a Ford Bronco with a gun pressed to his head. His lifelong buddy Al Cowlings at the wheel with a cellular phone pressed to his ear. While America watched the drama unfold, many who meant so much to O.J. were desperately calling television stations hoping to help.
Man, I'm just praying that you guys will just give yourself up, man. Just stop. Please stop. In Jesus' name, just stop, man. Because we love you, man. Just stop.
Onlookers stopped their cars in the streets and lined the freeway overpasses, cheering and waving to the man who was once a football god, a superhero with everything to live for.
It was as if they were cheering him from the sidelines of a football game, and he was on the run, just like he did that on the football field. They did not want to believe that he could be capable of such a crime.
But what went on inside the mind of a pained and despondent O.J. Simpson is a sad mystery to which we can only speculate.
Everything right now is okay, officer. Everything is okay. All about he wants me to get it to his mom. He wants me to get it to his house. Okay. He just wants to see his mother. Let me get him to the house. Okay, hold on a moment.
He was like a caged animal. I think that that was the most chilling, most difficult, most primitive moment that he felt in his life. Like a little child, not knowing which way to turn, terrified, wanting his mommy.
But perhaps it was O.J. himself who gave the world some insight into his state of mind on Friday, when his close friend read an open letter O.J. had written earlier in the day.
First, everyone understand, I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her, always have, and always will. If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much.
He probably did have a large intent to kill himself. That note was definitely a suicide note.
I think of my life and feel I've done most of the right things. So why do I end up like this? I can't go on. No matter what the outcome, people will look and point. Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love, O.J.
When police spotted the despondent fugitive, it was not far from the town where his ex-wife was buried just the day before. What was O.J. doing there? Where was he headed?
I think that he was probably headed towards his wife's grave and to commit suicide at her grave, because that would be able to carry out his wish the best. That is, he would be the closest to her in life, and then if he killed himself, he would be able to be the closest to her in death.
After 2 hours, the chase finally ended at O.J.'s Brentwood mansion. When he surrendered, he collapsed in the arms of an officer and said, "I'm sorry for making you do this." He was clutching his family photos.
How could it have come to this? How could one of our greatest heroes have fallen so low? We'll explore that part of the story next as we continue our...
No one thought this football hero would be charged with a double murder, but he was. And no one thought he would run from the police, but he did. Now, after his first day in court, could O.J. spend the rest of his life behind bars? It's the latest on The Simpson Case. Tomorrow on Hard Copy.
That's within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022B. It is further alleged that as to counts 1 and 2, you will